How you doing with your platters? Are you getting a chance to do any?
I just been practicing the flowers, and I thought that was that sure is a hell of a one. When you're doing the roses, I love it. It looks so neat. I go like, oh wow, that's a neat technique.
Yeah, and I find some colors look better than others, definitely. It's all about playing and experiencing it, right? And picking your favorite blends and then, whatever works for your house or whatever, right? And yeah, I was saying earlier that I wish I did a one plate with a variety of all five flowers like I sometimes do with the other series. But then I added all the extra faux finishes there for you guys to play on your plates with. So I figured that was enough for you guys to do for this series for sure. Lots of work I gave you guys. Keep playing on the paper, and then don't forget, like, even a glass, guys. If you can get an old frame from like a Dollar Tree or something, and just practice on a piece of glass, like, you'll see how slippery it is to do the strokes compared to on paper, right? And it's so much more forgiving because you guys will be able to erase more. You know how I love to erase. And if you have to do a stroke twice, again, the second time it's very easy to be able to get rid of anything that's a little bit dirty or muddy that you're not liking, right? So definitely it's all about just practicing getting loosened up on the paper. And then if you do fabric, definitely anything that really absorbs a lot, like especially if you want to do a jean jacket or t-shirt, then all this paper practice is going to pay off, because then that is going to be something, and then you really got to slow down and allow that paint to get into the surface so you'll get better coverage. If we move too fast, it'll definitely skip over and not absorb. Right? So you'll see that you'll be able to move a lot quicker on the glass, and it'll definitely work a little bit differently for you. Right? Whether it's glass or those plastic chargers, anything that's really slippery, a vase, wine glasses, nails. For my one nail artist lady, when we start working with the gels, it's a lot more slipperier. So, yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. And when you understand the different science behind it all, too, it's a little bit more forgiving, right? You're not beating yourself up so much because you know it's just your paper that's dry, right? So, wax paper is also good to practice on as well. And then you can throw them away after. And you'll see that you can move a lot quicker on something slipperier.
And I'm working on a glass project right now, and it calls for a Filbert brush, a number 2. And when I use a number 2 Filbert, when I set it down, I end up with a blob instead of like a little leaf.
Well, yeah, they're definitely brushes.
Because of the brush size, should I go up a little higher maybe?
It depends on how big you want your results in the end. Right? Donna, I think, has 2 or 3 sizes in her kits. But I don't think she has a 2. I don't recall a 2. This one's a 1/2 inch. She might have 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and then 3/4 inch in the Filberts. But these brushes definitely, like this one's all gone fuzzy now, and it's probably lost its chisel.
Well, I find for glass that it's hard to get enough paint for the first stroke. But then when you paint over it the second time, the stroke isn't as pretty. Is that true? Is that what
I'm not sure why your results isn't as pretty. Is it your gradient that got off the second time, or I'm not sure what you mean by not as pretty.
What I do is when I do the filbert, it ends up with a little crack in the middle, like I don't have enough paint. So then I go back and try to fill that crack up with paint. Now it doesn't look right.
You can play with that brush. Definitely it's a limit. It's a little bit limited, and definitely you gotta, again, like any brush stroke, you gotta make sure that you're having a nice chisel to it, that you can flatten it out, right? And then, but a lot of times we end up doing a lot of daisy strokes with it. And if you only did daisy strokes with that brush, eventually, you might be frying the ends. Like I think that's what happened to this one. I have some that are older than others. And it's gotten curly on me weird, right? It's separating here a little bit. But what I like about this brush is more of the flip flop. I'm running out of paint. Right? And I'm side loading still 2 colors. Right? You're a little bit more on an angle instead of the daisy stroke with it. I would still use a flat brush for daisy strokes. But
well, that's what I'm about ready to do, use the flat brush.
Yeah. Or if you really want to do daisy strokes, then I would pull out a round brush. If you want to try something different. Yeah, and you can load those the same way. You can, actually, you do more flip-flops. You're going to flop in one color and then flop into the other color. So you have 2 colors on your brush at the same time. And then when you push down, depending on if you have the light on the top or the dark on the top, or even half and half, you're going to get different effects. Now, this is the dry brush, and I'm running out of paint. So let me get some fresh paint here so I can show you guys.
So what size was your Filbert?
A 2, she said. That's tiny.
Yeah, because I've used a tiny Filbert on my ornaments, and they make great little leaves.
Yeah, like just a flip-flop style, right? I wouldn't...
That's what I'm trying to do, but I'm looking at my brush, and it does not have a chisel, so that could be the problem.
Well, yeah, this one has definitely gone all fuzzy on me. And, yeah.
So it's over your brush.
Yeah, because if you wet it, you should be able to have a chisel. It should be in nice shape, just alone with water.
So when you use the Filbert, you pull it towards you or pull it, and then you have to kind of like turn it on its side, right, to finish it up?
It depends on the angle you push down on it, a little bit flat, but a little bit on an angle. Or is it totally flat? Or is it totally on its side? So it's almost like a lazy flat, right? So you got a little bit of a crunch happening. Oops, I keep trying to multi-load. Right? So you pull out your paint a little bit. And what I like to do too is bring out my paint a little bit more. And I wouldn't dilute it the same way when I show you guys how to do this with your round brush, and I show you guys again how to do it with your liner brush. But you can do this, and I show you again with a flat brush in the tulips, right? But I still would want like a thicker paint. I wouldn't want it to be diluted with water. So you're going to pick up one color on one side, come over, pick up your other color on the other side. So then when you go to do your stroke, again, if you want to do like a leaf pattern, the more pressure, you're going to have smaller leaves. Come pick up. And then as I come down, I might want to have, a little bit bigger. Sometimes I have a lot of red on my brush. Sometimes I'll choose just to go and pick up a little bit more white if I want a lighter color. But see, I can put the red on the top, and you're going to get usually more red showing on whatever's on top. You usually see follow through. Okay, so let's try that again. Maybe I got too much white in my brush. So it is a technique that you got to play with a little bit more. And then once you start to see the results you're looking for, more dark than light, right? So if I have the light on the top, usually it follows through on top. You'll get more lighter leaf. So if you pretend these are 2 greens that I'm playing with. Alright, so you see the nice streaks that are happening? And you're right. If you go over this twice, you're going to wreck your streaks that you get before. So, if you go over this too many times, it might start getting muddy because you're over blending. So, yeah, definitely warm up on some paper or something. Make sure that you're happy with your brush, getting the result. It's always frayed at the end. It's really hard to get a nice point. But usually you're going to put a center in there anyways, right over the edge. And you're not going to see that finish anyways. So as long as you're getting a nice load, even amount of color, and just maybe put more paint on your brush. And it's just like your one-stroke leaf. As soon as you're pushing down, you're starting to pull it up to the point. There's no dragging. You don't want, unless you really want a long type leaf, then you're really going to push and then slowly drag it to a point. But you can only go as big as your brush will let you. So if you want a bigger brush, a bigger leaf than this, then you have to go to a bigger brush. So you don't have to push so hard. Because you do get a nicer leaf with a gentle little punch down and pull up right away. You shouldn't overwork your brush. So yeah, if you're not getting a big enough leaf with that number 2, Sue, then maybe you got to try a little bit bigger brush. So you don't have
a couple things. I think I need more paint and a better chisel.
Yeah, it does make a difference, right? Because like our flat brushes, they get wrecked too. And if you had it for a long time, and I have an old brown one here from the old Pro set, and I've had that for a long time, and then I just opened a new set recently, and it's beautiful, right? So definitely all your brushes make a difference.
It's funny too, because one day I can really paint well, and then the next day it's like nothing will work.
Always warm up.
Days.
Yeah, warm up. Play with some practice strokes first, right? And then try. And this year I'm going a little bit smaller, so maybe you're trying to drag too much with the smaller brush.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm doing too.
So you need to get to a bigger brush. So as soon as you push down, you're starting to pull up. So they're nice and punchy. They're not, this brush looks nicer with smaller little punchy strokes. I find you get that little extra drag and movement from a flat brush. And you can get a softer edge, right? You don't have to have that, let me get this loaded a little bit more. Right, again, when you go an underdirect, you're going to get that soft little start too, right? So, yeah, even with your little flat brushes, like again, this is an 8 now. Anything.
You would think that the 2 would be quick and easy, but boy, I've just been struggling with it.
Any size can be a challenge. We all have our favorite, and sometimes smaller is harder. Right? So if you go straight up on your chisel and do a daisy stroke with a brand new brush, you're going to get that point at the top of your leaf. Right? You'll get the daisy look. But if you go and put a little bit of an angle, so you're flopping down a little bit more, and then you're directed towards yourself, not so up and down, you'll get a softer, rounder edge, even with your flat brush.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so you definitely load your brush differently with the Filbert. And then you're going to put the colors on each side. Normally, if you're getting it too dark, then maybe you're putting too much dark. So maybe, a third dark to 2/3 white, right? Try to get a really big load of white and a smaller load of red so that you get dominantly more lighter color. But a lot of the time when you're doing this kind of thing, the more variety you get, the better it looks, right?
it's mainly the shape though, not necessarily the color
Yeah.
of the, it's mainly the shape that I'm not getting.
Yeah. So don't.
I just have to practice more.
Yeah, and then definitely brush size will make a difference depending on the size.
Yeah, I'm thinking of going up to them to a 4 or a 6.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mandy.
Oh, no problem. I love all the questions. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Definitely, I wish we can do this more often, but definitely the last Tuesday of the month. If you've got questions, then definitely this is the place to come and meet me live on Zoom.